And welcome to our Abundant Retirement Podcast. I'm Tony Roberts, and I will be hopefully addressing some questions and concerns that have come up over the past few weeks regarding financial and, more importantly, retirement planning. And as we go through some of these things today, hopefully, again, whether you're listening or whether you're actually getting to see us on video, we welcome you to our podcast. It's we always try to have some interesting topics that will help you not only today, but as you look down the road, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years, depending on when retirement is or how long you're wanting that retirement to last. There might be some little golden nuggets that will help you out. As always, my partner in crime, Mr. Tony Shore, is manning the control desk in our home office up in Minneapolis. And Tony, I hope you had a great weekend. And hey, brother, it's August. Can you believe it? Summer's going to be over before we know it, and we'll be talking about. Well, in fact, I saw my first Christmas ad the other day, man.
Oh no,
It's
no,
unbelievable. It's just
that
unbelievable, brother. I don't
that's
know what
the
to tell
no,
you.
that's not allowed. That's not. I
Well,
mean, the year is flying
yeah, I
by,
would
but
think so,
still,
but why do they do this stuff to us? I just don't understand it.
I
We're
don't
getting old
either. And
enough. You remember when you remember when our parents and grandparents, they just wait till you get older and the time goes by quicker and faster, and you looked at them sort of cross-eyed like, what are you talking about? There's 24 hours in a day. It's the same for everybody. But man, I don't know. It just seems like every day I get in the shower and it's like, didn't I just do this yesterday? Didn't we just go through this yesterday and now we're doing it
yeah.
again today? So it's
Well,
it's pretty crazy.
yeah. Time flies when you're having fun, and because my kids are grown now, unless you have young kids, when they go back to school, that's kind of that used to be the end of summer. Now my indicator is NFL football.
Yeah.
If football starts, and I watched an NFL game this past weekend, I watched a preseason game. I'm like, oh my gosh, summer's over. If the NFL's starting, I've already lost summer.
I know, but I tell you, wasn't it nice to have on? Because
It was fun.
I'm
Yeah,
telling you what, brother. I mean, there's something about mid to late July and early August, and I understand we got baseball, but it
oof.
just seems like, man, it's something. Is football around the corner? And please start getting it on TV, because
It's a
whether you
sports
like it or
black
not,
hole.
brother,
Yeah.
football does demand a high entertainment value. There's no doubt
Yeah,
about
it
that.
really does. It
Yeah,
does. Yeah, I'm way into it, probably more than I should be. I really enjoy it. So, and I know college sports in the area there are huge. Obviously,
yeah,
Kentucky,
yeah,
but I just love the NFL too. I was born and raised in Minnesota, so we've got the Vikings, and so
yeah. And
yeah,
and I may have told you this before, but I mean, I'm a big Viking fan. I've been a Viking fan since I was a kid.
yeah, it's
And,
cool.
and the reason being is back in the day when we only had three television channels. For some reason or another, this is late '60s, early '70s. For some reason or another, CBS broadcast the Viking games,
Yeah,
and that was back in the old Purple People Eater days, man.
yeah.
And
Fran
yeah,
Tarkenton.
I fell in love with the Vikings when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and I've continued to be a fan ever since.
Yeah,
So yeah, go
you
go Vikes, go
Go
Vikes,
Vikes! That's great.
go Vikes.
Well, I know some people up there in the Louisville area. Maybe they root for the Titans. I don't know in the NFL, but
Yeah, they yeah, it's sort of it's sort of you've got Indianapolis an hour and a half north, you've got Cincinnati an hour and a half to sort of the northeast, and then you got the Titans down in Nashville, a couple of 2 or 3 hours down there. So really, you sort of get the ability to have the pick of whoever you might want to
yeah,
cheer
true.
for, and
Yeah,
but yeah, but you're right. You mentioned it earlier. I mean, Kentucky is a college state.
yeah,
Everything sort of revolves around Big Blue Nation,
Yep. Yep.
and unfortunately, the red team that resides here in Louisville. You got those people.
There
They
are
can't.
those people.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
people. They can't help themselves. They just yeah, they're trying. They're trying to get
Uh,
up to the other side, but no. Listen, half of my client base is Louisville fans, so they're going all just sit there.
sure.
Tony, we're out of here. We'll see you. Bye.
Yeah, you don't wanna you just alienated half your listeners, and clients, so, but
Yeah.
you gotta pick it everybody picks a side, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, hey, let's get into our topic for today, and that's
Okay.
understanding this, One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or
Wow. There's a
OBA.
lot to understand, brother. 900 pages. Whoa.
Over 900
Yeah.
pages. So there's going to be stuff in here that's great that people are going to love. There's going to be stuff in there that some people don't like. I mean, anything that's that big that the government puts out, there's going to be good and bad. We're going to hit some of the highlights today, right?
Yeah, and don't you love, Tony, that they put out these 900-page, 1,000-page, classics? They're more. There's more reading there than a War and Peace novel, but
Right.
and expect these people to just run through it, understand it, vote on it, and be done with it. So yeah, it is, and I think we teased us maybe a couple of weeks ago that we were going to have a maybe one or two shows going into some depth on, now that we sort of understand what's going on with this thing,
Sure.
with it. But yeah, we can jump into it. I think the biggest thing, Tony, is the extension of the 2017 tax cuts. Um, in 2017, in Trump's first term, he basically went in and had what was known as the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and he lowered our personal income tax levels to, I don't know, 40, 50, 60-year lows from an income tax basis, which personally I think is good. A lot of my clients think is good.
Sure.
But they were not made permanent. They were actually put into place to expire at the end of this year, at the end of 2025. The big beautiful bill has now made those tax cuts permanent, which means that as long as the current administration is in place, we'll probably have the continued tax cuts.
Yeah.
Whoever wins in 28, whatever Congress looks like down the road, they can blow up permanent and go in and say, you know what, we're raising the taxes back up, take it and run with it. But for now, yeah, it gives us some long-term planning clarity, because now that we know the brackets are firm, again, for how long we never know with the government, but it allows us to do some planning work. It allows us to, keep the Roth conversion windows open. It allows us to have actually higher limits of standard deductions versus itemizing, which can be helpful. And so, when we are looking at the biggest hand in our pocket when it comes to either working and or retirement, it's the IRS. It allows us to at least start having the ability to have some conversations with our people of saying, hey, look, is it better to go ahead and take care of the tax today while the rates are lower, or do we just want to roll the dice and maybe wait for down the road and deal with it later, and see if the rates remain low? But in my view, I don't see how they'll go any lower. I think they could only go higher down the road. So again, the question exists, Tony, with a lot of the people that we help. Does it make sense to go ahead and pay tax now while we feel like the rates are lower versus down the road when they could possibly go up? So these are some things to look at. uh, when you're working with Roth conversions, you still have to be very cognizant of the fact that if you do too much of a conversion, it may take you into that next higher bracket, and that may not be something that you would want to do. So, again, whoever is working with you on doing your tax planning and future, whether it be Roth conversion, Section 7702, charitable giving, whatever the case may be, that you're looking to possibly lower your tax through some proven strategies and techniques that are out there, a part of the tax code. You got to take these things into consideration. And uh, again, Tony, and we've mentioned this several times on the podcast. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax attorney. But if you're paying me a fee, I should be able to have a conversation with you about 4 or 5 or 6 different tax strategies that could save you money, and have a conversation, enlighten you on some of the good, the bad, and the ugly. See if any of it makes sense, and if it does, then guess what? Let's pull your CPA or let's pull your tax professional in, and the other specialists that you've got surrounding you, and let's have a conversation with all of them, and let's make sure that we're doing the right thing by you. But uh, there's a lot of brokerage outfits that are out there. There's a lot of banks. There's a lot of other advisor groups and things like that refuse, or even with some of the big brokerage houses, their advisors are forbidden to talk to their clients about tax planning. And to me, if somebody's going to take 20, 30, 40% of your retirement check and put it into their pocket instead of your pocket, and you're paying me a fee to give you advice, uh, it's my viewpoint that we should be able to start having some conversation
Yeah.
about how to save you money on tax. So again, one of the big pieces of the big beautiful bill was the extension of those tax credits. And I know I got a little running on there, but tax is huge, so you got to take care of it.
Well, it's a big part of retirement income planning and planning your finances. It's going to be one of your biggest, if not your biggest, expense in retirement. And so many retirement accounts, they all have tax designations, which is
Yeah.
why you can't do retirement planning and retirement income planning without looking at your long-term tax planning strategy. And you mentioned Roths, that extension of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that's going to help open up that window or keep that window open to where you might want to do some Roth conversions, because taxes are going to stay low for a little while, and they're probably going to be higher down the road. We know they can't kick this can down the road too far because they still have to fund the government. They tried to come up with some creative ways in this bill to get more funding in, but there's also expense in the bill. So you have to look at both sides. What my favorite part of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was the standard deduction,
Yeah.
which really you don't have to bother with itemizing. You got, like, I think initially it was $25,000 standard deduction off the top, which was great.
Yeah.
Now that's been extended. It's for couples filing jointly, it's $30,000. Um, I think that's
In
fantastic.
2025, yeah, and I think they even bumped it up another $1,500 for couples. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a sizable number, and again, for people that might be just strictly W-2 income, and maybe other than um, maybe their mortgage
yeah,
interest deduction, and whether or not that exceeds the standard deduction, it sort of allows people to possibly even just maybe do their own tax filings under an easy, and be done with it. So
yeah,
yeah, those are important pieces that are there, that have to be looked at, and taken into consideration.
sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's another? Okay, we talked about the extension of the tax cuts. What's the next thing in the bill you wanted to touch on today?
Well, and again, this may not affect. I don't really know that much about Minnesota, but I know it probably doesn't affect that many folks here in Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio. But I know why it was done. They had to have the New York Republicans on board to get this bill passed, and they were just clamoring from a standpoint that they were only, or these salt, they call these salt deduction caps, were lowered back in 2017, and which basically means that their state taxes were not allowed to, or the larger amount of their state paid taxes were not allowed to go on federal deductions, and they increased that from 10,000 up to 40,000 for tax year 2025. And I think these things are probably going to be in play for 4 or 5 years. I think it's through 2029. But
Yeah,
anyway, going from 10,000 to 40,000, again, to appease these high earning blue states, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
in being able to carry over state tax over to the federal so it can reduce the federal tax and things of that nature right there. A lot of pushback with this, as you can imagine, because people here in Kentucky or Ohio, or Indiana, sitting there saying, why should we be sitting there having to help pay for what goes on with people up in New York? But these margins are so thin with the majorities in the House and things of that nature right there. If you lose 3 or 4 votes, then you lose the ability to pass a bill. So again, some of these things were put into the bill to appease in order to get the votes, and I think this was one of them. So is the SALT deduction cap. And again, to probably a lot of our listeners, this may or may not be that big of an
Right.
issue, but it was part of the bill, so they put it
Yeah.
in. Um, something else that maybe is a little bit more pertaining to people that might be listening today is a senior deduction of $6,000 per person for people ages 65 plus.
This is a huge
Uh,
one. I think this is the biggest thing in the bill.
well, I think it is too, and again, now it's up to 75,000 for single filers and 150,000 for joint filers. But we heard a lot of campaign promises and things like that we need to go in and fix Social Security, fix Social Security, fix Social Security. Well, they couldn't get the votes to fix Social Security. So what they did instead was they said, okay, seniors, we're going to be able to give you a $6,000 deduction above and beyond what you've got going on right now, which will help, again, keep more monies in your pocket versus going out the door. So nothing is really changing with Social Security, but this is just something else that seniors can do that will, in a roundabout way, save them monies on their overall tax bill, which includes not only their income tax, but Social Security taxes and different things like that. So, yeah, I'm like you, Tony. I think this is a big one,
And
and
it
and
helps, and
I think it's good. It helps seniors. It helps
it helps
seniors.
seniors and it helps middle class.
Yeah.
It starts phasing out at 150, and if you're a couple and you file jointly, and you're filing, your income is more than 175,000, you're not going to get the extra 6,000. But anybody under that is going to get an additional amount, and anybody from 150 under is going to get an additional deduction, a standard deduction bonus of $6,000 per person. Listen to this, Tony.
Yeah.
I did the math. So this is
Okay.
so great for seniors because the married filing jointly standard deduction is like
$31,500. Yeah,
$31,000.
it's like
Yeah,
31,500.
31,500.
Yeah.
So they get 31,500. Then they also get 1,600 per person, which is an additional senior deduction that is still in place. That the 6,000 doesn't include that. The 6,000's on top of that. So that's another 1,600 per person. Then, if they're married and both 65 and older, they're each going to get 6,000. That's an additional 12. That adds up to $45,500 in standard deduction. What
Right.
that means is about 88% of people aren't going to be paying any taxes on Social Security because it's going to bring their income low enough to
Right.
where their Social Security won't be taxed.
Right.
And that is in place of actually removing tax. It's not taking the Social Security is still taxed, but it's based on your reporting income, that
Correct.
special income.
Yep.
And you're going to have a lot. If you can take $45,500 off that, you're going to help your IRMA. You're going to help your especially Social Security taxation. It's either going to drop you from the full to the 50 or from 50 to none.
Exactly
And
right.
so what a standard deduction. I mean, my parents, who are married filing jointly and they're both 80, they're not going to pay any taxes next year for the next 4 years because of this.
Well, and Tony, you just hit it. And what a lot of people don't understand is we all operate under a graduated income tax brackets, if you
Yeah.
so to speak. So it's what you just said right here. What that really means is, to people that are listening or watching, the first $45,500 worth of income for people 65 years or older is coming in as 0% federal tax bracket. So the first $45,500 that you make is at 0% federal tax. Now, that's not a great amount of money, but I'm telling you, and you know this as well as I do, there's probably a substantial amount of Americans 65 years of age or older that may be living on less than that amount year over year.
Yeah.
So basically, they don't have to pay any federal tax, and that's
Yeah.
huge.
Even if they're making $100,000 as a couple, if they have $100,000 in income, it's going to cut it not quite in half, but almost in half what they have to pay taxes on.
Yeah, because what happens then after that 45.5, and with a joint couple, I haven't got my tax tables in front of me, but let's just say the next 100,000 is no, it's not that much. It's probably the next 50,000, give or take,
Sure.
is at the 10% bracket.
Yeah.
So in essence, the first $100,000 worth of income with all of this included is probably going to come in at an effective federal amount of tax somewhere in about a 4.5 to 5% range
Yeah. And that's
on 100
unbelievable.
grand.
Yeah.
And that takes in an incredible amount of people,
Yeah.
65 and older, making $0 to $100,000. That's an incredible amount of people.
That's the
So
majority.
I agree with you. I think this is a huge piece. I think it's
Yeah.
a big win. And
I think it's one of the most overlooked too. People don't quite understand it. At first, they thought, "Oh, it's $6,000 total per No, it's per person."
Yeah.
And then they thought, "Well, it's instead of the 16." Nope, it's on top of the 1,600
Yep.
senior standard deduction, and you have that increased standard deduction on top of it. I really, when you do the math, and as I dug into it just to confirm that, because I'm like, "How could that is really big." And as you know, Tony, I mean, obviously there are wealthy people who it's going to phase out and not affect them. But boy, the middle class, for all those complaining that this bill is only for the wealthy, this part of it is definitely straight at seniors and the middle class. That's who it's going to help. And
Exactly right.
that's why I'm excited, because I think that's a group that needs a lot of help. The
No,
middle class
I do.
and
No,
seniors.
I agree with you 100% on that. And Tony, you just hit on a very good point right there. You know, I hear all the rhetoric that comes here. Oh, this is just for the high end and this and that and the other and all this other stuff. I get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's
But
things in the bill that are
a
definitely
lot of
benefiting them.
people aren't paying tax. Lower income earners aren't paying any tax.
Right.
Or a very small amount of tax.
Yep.
So, Tony, if you're paying zero in tax, there's nothing out there that they can give you that's going to put more money in your pocket because you're paying zero.
Right. Yeah.
So again, it's sort of like on the top end, people can say, well, we need to tax the wealthy more and more and more. Well, you tax them 100%. You can't tax them any more than that.
Right.
So, they just act like, well, we're going to make you bleed more than 100%. No, you can. If you say, hey, look, we want you to give us 100% of your paycheck, that's all you can get from them. And even at that, that's not going to pay for all of it's not going to pay. I saw something the other day that if we tax the upper 3% at 100%, it would maybe pay $12 trillion of our total $37 trillion of debt. It still leaves 25 trillion. And where's that money going to come from? So again, there has to be some cost savings going on. And part of it, I don't think we're going to get into that today, but there was probably, I read somewhere, there was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about $4.5 trillion of cost savings built into this bill as well. Now they're also predicting about 3.3 increase, but in my math, that's about 1.2 or 3 trillion of savings over the next 10 years of the offsets of spending versus increased tax or increased deficit and everything else like that. So
yeah, I hear so many. I mean, the numbers. You hear so many different numbers from different people in different camps on how much is this bill going to save the government and how much is it going to cost the government, and some of it's speculation because some of it, is well over time. By doing this now, we're going to over time save money because of. So it's hard to calculate.
Yes.
And so I think some of those numbers regarding how much it costs the government and how much it costs or how much it makes, how much income the government is going to get because of this bill, and how much in money is going out because of it,
Sure.
how
No.
much it's going to increase the deficit. And those numbers are somewhat subjective. And so, unfortunately, you'd think, well, no, those are hard numbers. No, they're really not, because if you the bill is 970 pages long,
It's
it's gonna
ridiculous.
take a while for people to really get, okay. They can do estimates. I mean, estimates are one thing. It's not hard, fast numbers like the what we were talking about. The tax credits are hard numbers.
Yes.
We know the specific rules. They're in effect now as of 2025. So there is no estimating involved there.
Yes.
The only estimating is what your income will be, and that's going to vary person by person. But we know how this is going to apply. We don't know that as far as the cost, and that's where the government can fudge numbers, and that's where the media can fudge numbers. And I think we get fudging on both sides of the fence these days. So it's tough, isn't it?
It's all in who's wanting to progress their narrative and make it
Yeah,
sound like they're doing bigger
exactly.
and better. Hey, listen, I know we're probably running up to some time, but just a few other things here that I
Sure.
think are very advantageous for people that are out there. President Trump made a big thing about not taxing tips and some other things like that during the campaign. So again, uh, taxes on tips. So for anybody who has tip income, the first $25,000 of tip income is now deductible. So again, if you're out there and you're making a modest living and a lot of that money that you have coming in is coming from tips, you can deduct the first 25,000 with zero tax. And I think that's fair, Tony. I mean, I've got some restaurants that I frequent every now and then that are high end, and the people there, are making 100, 150, 200,000 a year in tip wages. So again, it's just not going across the board and saying, yeah, if you just make whatever in tips, we're going to exclude it all. But again, it's I think it's going after more of the mom and pop type people and people working in the diners and the restaurants and things of that nature right there, and saying, hey, look, we're going to give you a break. The first 25,000 of tips are going to be deductible now from any types of tax from a federal level and things like that. Overtime pay, you get to deduct up to 12,500, and again per person. So if you got two people in a family, and if you both are maybe hitting some overtime and this that and other, you can deduct up to 12,500 for overtime pay. If a car is assembled in the United States, you can deduct up to
Wow.
$10,000 of interest. If you buy that car and finance it, then they'll allow you to deduct the interest, much like what they do on a home. So again, these are just ways that are meaningful, I think, to middle class America, where they can sit there and say, if you make wages through tips, if you work overtime, if you buy an American made car, then we're going to allow you to have a little bit more money in your pocket versus going out the door in taxes. So I think that's very important as well. Um, you got some child savings accounts. They increase those, and also, uh, for kids, babies being born, I think it's $1,000 that they're allowed, that the government is putting into these newborns and saying, "Hey, look, we're gonna give you a head start on some savings accounts and things of that nature right there." So again, you got some things going on with that. Federal estate tax next year in 2026 is going to be $15 million per person, which excludes a number of Americans from having to ever worry about estate tax. But again, Tony, as we talked about earlier, we don't know what it looks like 4 years down the road. And there's some people out there, an independent senator from Vermont. I'm not going to mention his name, but he wants to take the estate tax exemption back down to $1 million. Well, that brings a whole lot of people into 40% taxes on
Oof.
estate taxes
Yeah.
if they were to do that. So again, at $15 million per person, $30 million per couple, that excludes a lot of folks out there in this country from ever having to worry about estate tax. But
Yeah,
we don't know. We don't know what it might be down the road. So
that's true.
those are things there that are important. There's also some pieces there on charitable giving that I think are important as well. And Tony, again, I know we're running up against the clock here, but any and all of these, we've actually got a white paper that sort of gives you a summary. So for any of our listeners out there or anybody that's watching us, if they'll just reach out to us and say, Tony, would you please send us a white paper on the big beautiful bill? We'll be glad. It's customized, and we'll be glad to get it out to you and let you take a look at some of the more in-depth reading that we were able to put together on the overview of this thing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and to get it's a nice PDF that can be emailed. You can come into the office and get a copy. You can
Yeah.
set up a consultation to talk to you and your team about it, about how it can impact you and take advantage of some of these things when it comes to your financial planning. So, Tony, how can our listeners out there get a hold of you to set up that consultation or get this white paper on the big beautiful bill and what it might mean to them?
Well, and Tony, the other thing too, it's not only getting a white paper or getting an overview what the bill is. It's also sitting down and talking to someone, whether it be myself or whoever your financial professional is saying, hey, look, how can I take these new parameters and start to apply them and make it work for me? Again, whether it might be paying tax today versus paying it down the road, these are all issues that you should be having conversations with the people and the specialists that you've got surrounding you about how it's going to affect you, what's the outcome going to be, and different things of that nature right there. So yeah, that's what we do. The first couple of meetings with us are solely complimentary because, again, we're trying to get to know each other. We're trying to see if we can actually help you or not. Again, why would I set up and start charging you fees if I can't eventually help you? It doesn't make sense. So again, these are things that we're trying to uncover when we get together, that first or second meeting, and see if we've got any common ground or not. But yeah, Tony, you're welcome. From that standpoint, they can reach out to us at abundantretirementplanning.com, info at abundantretirementplanning.com. You can email us at that, info at abundantretirementplanning.com. You can go to our website, arobertsassociates.com. You can call us at the office, toll free, 888-955-3665. Again, 888-955-3665. So many, many ways to reach out and touch someone. Wasn't that a commercial? What was that?
Yeah, reach out and touch someone. AT&T.
AT&T. Reach out and
yeah. There you go.
Sounds
That's
good.
A blast
Yeah.
from the
Maybe
past.
Maybe we'll sing that next time. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. We want listeners, but if you're going to start singing jingles on the show, Tony, I don't know about that. But seriously, great show today. A lot of information packed in there. Listeners, again, pick up the phone, give Tony and his team there at A. Roberts and Associates a call, 888-955-3665. And that does it for today's episode of Abundant Retirement with our host, Tony Roberts.